Look at the background. It's all black.
Very good.
Oh, snap.
All right. Here we are again to talk about our latest review of the adventure we just finished, Happy Jack. Today we have with us John Carey. John, why don't you tell us the name of your character and the class and a little bit of very brief about your character.
All right, so in this campaign, I am a wizard who is also a cleric, and he is a high elf, and that's
brief.
That's brief.
Brief. All right. Very good. Dave, you're back with us this week. Just remind everybody about your character.
Darcy is a wood elf paladin who is very much a wood elf paladin, Oath of the Ancients, and so she's sort of naive but very good-hearted.
All right. Ron Carey, you want to tell everybody about your character?
Broten is a cleric of life. He's a hill dwarf.
Very good. And Greg Walty. Greg, you're returning with us this week. Just remind everybody about your character.
Sure, I play Olus Na. He's a high elf rogue.
All right, very good. So Happy Jack's Funhouse. This was what we played right after Lost Mines of Phandelver. I just kind of pushed y'all in, and we just want to get your opinion about what went on in Happy Jack's and how you felt about it. So let's start off with Dave. Overall, what do you think of Happy Jack's Funhouse?
Okay, so
As a player.
Preface of this with a bias that I have, that I am incredibly not fond of, like circus type stuff, especially in fantasy. So, but going with it, I think the concept behind it all was interesting of the what the actual antagonists were. The difficulty, I think, is in a lot of the writing is not clear. I remember there were a lot of scenes where we would enter a new space and you would be reading through the description and be like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I think a lot of it needed a lot of clarification, or could have been written differently. And I think also a problem we ran into was that it's a lot of it was closed spaces. So a lot of little hallways and mirrored hallways. And so we were often stuck in a line while waiting for the rogue to very carefully check out what was ahead and deal with what was ahead. And we couldn't see anything because we couldn't see around the corners. So a lot of it was some waiting, and then a lot of trepidation about, do we enter this room that could go off into a magical portal somewhere or not, which a lot of us were hesitant to do. So as such modules go, I think it could have used better clarity and more thought behind each of the monsters and antagonists in it.
Great, thanks. Ron, I know that we'd spoken earlier in the week, and you mentioned a little bit about the portals. What you can talk about the portals, or in general as a player, what did you think of Happy Jack's Funhouse?
Yeah, it's funny that Dave would say the trepidation about portals. As a player, I'm not a fan of portals. I'm afraid of them all the time.
Yeah.
And at the level that we're playing at is why it's a concern. Because once I step through, how do I know my character is going to be able to step back out again? Or how do I know my character is going to be able to survive there? High enough level, there'll possibly be spells or some items readily available to be able to make it so that we can survive there. So I had that trepidation with portals. We'd find these means to get someplace, like the slot. I don't want to be a spoiler in the game. Spoiler alert. There are slides that lead somewhere that we were all afraid to go through. And Broten, being I'll go if everybody else goes, wasn't about to go, oh yeah, we got to go fight our way through these slides. So yeah, portals as a player kind of freaked me out at low levels. So that was how that worked. I'm similar to Dave. Sometimes I don't like my peas mixing with my mashed potatoes. So if I have fantasy, I don't always like whimsical fantasy with my medieval fantasy. And so there's a bit of work with that. I thought it was fine with the creepy clown and the creepy hag and that sort of thing, but it kind of straddled things that I'm not 100% fan of. What else? Well, I mean, it was good to be with the guys, with you guys, and and we did take it very slowly. I understand that there's like a time crunch for this adventure. We were meticulous, and it took us a while to do it.
All right. John, you played for some part of it. The parts that you played, what did you feel? How did you like it?
I kind of piggyback on what Dave and Ron had both said, that we were all, it was very tight quarters, as Dave was saying, and it's with that kind of forced our scout to do a lot of the playing of the game, and then we were all kind of bringing up the rear. That's how it felt as a player. That we would scout out things, check the doors for traps, and look for things, do all of our knowledge checks, and then once it was stabilized, we would bring the party up. And so it was kind of slow going in that way. And then the same thing with Ron, yeah, the mixing of genres. You know, I was kind of, this is the first campaign we've played, or I have played, where we've had, you know, fantasy with black powder gun or weapons and things like that. So it was a little bit of a mix, but the story was great. I really love the finale of it. It was really, really clever, well done. And yeah, I thought it was great. But yeah, along with what Dave said, it could have been a bit more written, or a bit more descriptive or accurate descriptive, so there wasn't a whole lot on your side to try to decipher what the intent or what they were trying to mean. But yeah, other than that, it was a great campaign. Really enjoyed it.
Greg, so your reaction to playing Happy Jack's Funhouse, how did you like it?
Well, I guess as the one who did everything, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching everybody just wander around, and actually, okay, so good point, because I did spend a lot of time, but that's been, as a party, we rely on our rogue to kind of scout things out anyways, and part of that is because the couple times that we haven't, we've like overextended ourselves and people wind up bleeding on the ground. So I think we play our characters in a similar way, with a similar caution. It's more than just a piece of paper or just a file. We actually play, something like you would almost want to play yourself, where you don't just jump into portals and jump into rooms and just go gung-ho and, grab your sword and charge into everything. So, the length of it was probably more because that's just the way we role play. And, my character's involvement, again, was probably more role play. Now, I will counter, I actually enjoy like new, different things. I've seen tons of orcs with swords and tons of goblins and things like that. And so this was an opportunity, every room you walked into, you're like, okay, what's the catch here? So I know there's a catch, I just don't know what it is. And nothing here is benevolent, but I need to figure this out. I think as we started getting a little less patient with it, we just would walk into a room and kill whoever was there without kind of really thinking. I'm thinking about the fisherman specifically. He was sitting there and we're like, well, I'm not sure what we should do with that. And our fighter character was like, oh, I'm going to throw a javelin at him. That was the kind of scenario there. But I thought overall, whoever created the module kind of came up with some pretty clever thing. The slide and the spinning room, and my guy got hit with a pig. That's pretty funny. So we were scared of a hippo. So I mean, these are not
be
things
scared of a hippo.
Well, I know real life, of course, but adventurers, the hippo with a sign on it seems pretty innocent. But so I thought those elements were a nice change of pace from what we would normally see, and I can appreciate the levels at that point. The description part didn't really concern me as much as some of our party members. But overall, I'd give it a thumbs up, and I thought it was a great 2 or 3 game adventure, for a total change of pace for somebody that didn't want to have like the standard orc goblin experience.
I'll piggyback on. I agree that there was nice to have an alternative, and just to let everybody know, our Tuesday games are only 2 hours, so that's why it took us a couple sessions to get through it.
Good point.
That's true. That's
And
true.
you did, I mean, to counter, anything negative I'm saying about it, you did run it fully prepared and well. So the maps were set up and everything like that. The descriptions were forthcoming and the way that the characters were played in it. It just, for me, purely subject matter related. And also too, I mean, we all happen to like our characters and we're not the kind of players to leap headlong into things like, what is this? A carnival ride? Let's hop on it, like not caring what happens. It's like, no, we're concerned. We don't want to die. And I think it wasn't so much we were losing patience. I think it became more of a pressing issue because we were realizing more and more how nefarious the whole situation was. It's a very much a rescue the children scenario, and we were starting to get really concerned about it. And so we started combing through the place faster and faster, trying to find a solution to it all.
And I do think at the end of the day, we went to almost every room, right, Vic? I mean, you would know better than we would.
Yeah, well, yes. So this is part of my wonderings about this as well, because there are various shortcuts in the adventure where you can, and some you could have skipped almost all of it if you did certain things. So this, and what ended up happening here, a spoiler alert, when you killed that one creature, it opened a portal to Happy Jack, right, at the end. So you never went down the slides. And so that was a whole other level that was unexplored, and where at the risk of another spoiler alert, something was left undone or unfound. Right. So, but I think that's also part of the what makes me feel also a little ambivalent about this adventure is that the way it was set up, certain things were really developed, excruciatingly so, and then there were also all these potential shortcuts for you to like not see any of it. And in this instance, you miss the entire second level of the dungeon at the bottom of the slide.
Oops.
Huh, interesting.
But
so
it shouldn't
I
be
just
an oops.
assume that that snake thing was just you facilitating the module and saying, okay, let's just get to the end, and I'm just going to make this thing happen. So that
No.
was actually written for that.
That was actually
that particular thing. Once you defeat it, it opens a portal. Huh.
Yeah, that was actually written, and there were other things that you could have done in the adventure also that had that same shortcut mechanic.
Oh god!
I don't know why the developer did that. I know you don't necessarily want to create adventures where everybody has to go through every single thing, and I know that there's a design thinking around. Some people call it Jacqueing, named after Janelle Jacques, about building in shortcuts to dungeons, and so maybe this is an example of that. And for us, in this instance, it left you not finding certain things in the dungeon as well. So you can say that that's good or bad. It's a design.
So here's an interesting thought. If some of those things would have been secret doors and not portals, we would have gone through the secret doors almost immediately.
100%. 100%.
Although, I mean, I think there's also two things too. I mean, there will be players who really like they like shenanigans, or they like, pirates or steampunk or whatever. And so they relish the opportunity to kind of jump into whatever it is to see what's on the other side. But I think also too, I admit I'm probably suffering from metagaming a little bit too, because you see something like, oh, it's a carnival. It's evil. That's what it is. It's evil automatically. That's the default.
Carnies and clowns.
How can it be anything but? And also too, if it's like we know children went in and they haven't come out. So there's something going on, and that's the premise. And then when we come across something that it seems to go somewhere, it's possible that, there's a little bit of metagaming mentality going on where it's just like, hey, I've been in Tomb of Horrors. This can't go anywhere beneficial to anybody. Why would you build this unless it was
exactly what Ron said.
So of course we're like, I don't want to dip my toe in that pool. So that,
but even
I'm guilty of that.
And so that's not, I see that less as metagaming and more as just good role playing. Because your character would not go into some like evil face skull that's smiling, there's just a black hole, and expect anything good to happen.
Because
Right?
you've all seen Tomb of Horrors, where you see.
Well, yeah, but even if you hadn't, you'd be like, okay, well, that doesn't look inviting, So
put your arm through first, and if it comes back
yeah,
out, it's
or
covered.
look in a ladder that doesn't end, or just goes into a black pit. Yeah, there's just certain things you just don't do.
And it's also the very chaotic setup of this place was that whoever did this wanted to cause chaos and wanted to, it's a trap for you to figure out. And so we were all very, very careful at it, and sent our very capable rogue up ahead to deal with it.
Yes.
And we would rescue him if we could.
Yes.
And
I do it for like 2 Scooby snacks.
And for better or for worse, John, who has his familiar, sent, because you all wouldn't go down the slide, he sent his familiar down the slide.
That's right.
And then it didn't come back, which only cemented, I think.
Yes.
If it was your familiar is down there and he's fine, he just can't get back up, then we would have been, oh, maybe we should go after him.
Yeah.
As it is, like he's gone, no longer on this plane. He must have been annihilated. I'm very sorry about your familiar, John.
We all made our wisdom saves.
Well, and what we said was, because the slide is a very long slide, it was beyond the 100 feet, right? Isn't that what we said, John?
Yeah, it was
so we just lost contact with it.
Yeah.
So it's not, we don't know that it died. We just know that because of the distance, we just didn't have contact.
The same thing would have happened if it gone through a portal.
Yeah.
And it would have had, there would have been more than 100 feet. So it would have been detached. But yeah, so trying to get back up the slide is a ferret.
I thought it started taking damage before when it went down, though. When you said contact, wasn't it getting hit with like?
It had to make a dex. Sorry, spoiler alert. It had to make a dex save to avoid a portal in the slide.
That's right.
I thought there was some sort of damaging thing.
Some sort of ethereal scar or something like that.
Yeah, so like a rift or a rip in the space-time continuum sort of thing. There's a rip in it, and as it would
because
come
of
down,
our failure, there's a child we failed to rescue and a lost ferret looking for
but the child had
maybe
a pet to look
maybe
after.
the child now has an animal companion in her.
Oh, there you go.
And she can
FF1, find the ferret 1.
Yeah.
Find the ferret 2. All right.
Your ferret May. So it's Sally Mae is out there.
There you go.
All right.
No brand name dropping in this video, please.
All right.
Listener's endorsement deal.
So that was our review of Happy Jack's Funhouse. So let's wrap it up, gentlemen. Let me start in reverse order. Greg, what would you rate it? Wormling, young, adult, or ancient?
I'm gonna go adult. Good.
All right, very good. And I think going in reverse order, was it John that went? John, what would you rate it?
I rated adult as well. Yeah, it was good.
All right. Ron, Carey.
I'll take good too. I had a fun time doing the adventure with some trepidation of the parts, but with you guys and some interesting stuff aside from the portals. Yeah, I'd say good.
Dave.
I think the premise and the story behind it definitely good. The actual physical implementation of it and the descriptions probably down near young.
Okay. I would actually, as a DM running it, I would probably put it between young and actually as a DM wormling, because I think Dave picked up on it. I felt that I had to do so much prep to run this that it was probably strangely a much heavier lift than Lost Mines of Phandelver. Even though Lost Mines is much bigger, it was laid out better, and the maps and the whole thing I just thought was easier. This one I really had to prep a lot for. Yeah. So as a DM between young and wormling, I wish the developer, like Dave said, some of the descriptions, some of the explanations, the maps. I had to do all the all the maps for the dynamic lighting, which isn't necessarily the developer's job because it's a PDF on DM's Guild for Roll20. They don't necessarily make a Roll20 version of it. So I realize some of the rooms are so crazy, right? It just was a lot of work to lay in the dynamic.
There was a maze in there too, which you had to
yes,
draw the dynamic lighting lines.
So from the DM point of view, that made it hard. But that's just kind of a mechanical point. I am happy that people did like it. It was different. I also share. I was a little trepidatious because this is very much outside of our usual run stuff with the carnival theme. But I did notice for this will date this recording that Wati's coming out with a new book, and it's carnival based, of a carnival based adventure of the circus. So I think I guess it's a thing. I think like the Fae is a thing right now. Like there's so many books and information about Fae. I wonder if the circus and carnivals are now going to be a thing in D&D, which I'm not in for. Give me my.
Will that be the curse of our adventuring party?
Yeah.
But I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody leaning in on this one. Final thoughts?
It would be more so you wouldn't recommend this for a beginner DM, someone who's been DMing for a while, or they're dungeon mastering for a while. This would be better suited for them.
Yes. Or someone with a lot of time. Which sometimes are younger DMs, right? If you have the time to go over everything and prep everything, you probably do it. I don't have that kind of time, and so it was like I had to prep a lot. I felt. For it. All right,
good thing we went slow then.
That's true. That's true.
It was a win-win.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Vic.
Thanks, Vic.